Millionaire's mute daughter shocked when a waitress revealed her dark secret using sign language. In the heart of the city, where glimmering skyscrapers kissed the sky, an intriguing tale unfolded one foggy evening at the high-end Bistro Bella. A hush fell over the tables as a wealthy young woman, known as the silent heiress, sat quietly, lips pressed tight. Her world was a maze of zeros, yet not a single sound escaped her mouth. The air buzzed with whispers, eyes darting, secrets afloat. No one knew her story fully, and those who dared approach felt an invisible barrier. She wore dark sunglasses, even inside, her long black hair cascading like a raven's wing. What mystery lay behind those tinted lenses? As the clattering of plates mixed with the chatter of the elite, a waitress named Jamie slipped into the scene. She was small, with a wild shock of curly hair and the kind of spark in her eyes that told you she saw more than what was on the surface. Her hands danced expressively, flirting with the air and bringing the moment alive. That night, she had no idea that her life would change forever, and neither did the silent heiress sitting alone at the corner booth. Then, it happened. Jamie delivered a plate of gourmet truffle pasta, and as she leaned forward, her own secret urge bubbled to the forefront. She signed a greeting, unaware of the storm brewing between them. The heiress's eyes shot up, locking onto Jamie, surprise painting her pale cheeks. Something flickered in the heiress, a glimmer of connection, a spark of recognition. Eyes widened, hearts raced. What was it that these two women shared? The room quieted. Tension wrapped around the atmosphere like a heavy fog. "Do you understand me?" Jamie asked, grinning cheekily, only to be met with an even deeper silence. The heiress's trembling hands reached slowly, carefully, into her designer purse, and as her fingers grazed a folded piece of paper, gasps erupted around the restaurant. What was she hiding? The air plunged into an untenable stillness, curiosity prickling through everyone present. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With the waiter's gaze flickering from Jamie to the heiress, uncertainty etched deeply in each face, the heiress finally glanced around, as if searching for an anchor in a stormy sea. She lifted the paper, her eyes locked onto Jamie's. In that fleeting moment, the room spun on a dime. What happened next would send chills down spines and ignite endless speculation. As she unfurled the note under the dim light, everyone leaned in, breath held tight, waiting for the truth that lay hidden in plain sight. What secret did her silence hold? What darkness lingered beneath that perfect exterior? And why did Jamie's signing unlock something in her soul? The answers hung in the air, electric, as the heiress prepared to reveal the unimaginable. The heiress's fingers trembled as she unfolded the paper, revealing jagged lines of handwriting that seemed barely legible in the weak light. Gasps rippled through the bistro. It was as if the walls themselves were aching to eavesdrop on secrets long buried. Jamie leaned in closer, her heart racing. She caught a glimpse of the words, "They're watching you." Pulses quickened as the statement echoed within the din of the restaurant. It was a chilling acknowledgement that sent shivers down her spine. What did it mean? Who was watching? The world around them blurred, and for a moment, it felt as if time itself had stilled, just for them. The heiress's eyes darted around the room, paranoia sweeping over her like a wave. The curious patrons, now spellbound, didn't dare breathe. She glanced back at Jamie, a silent plea woven into her expression. It was as if she had found an unlikely ally, someone who might understand the gravity of her situation. What does this mean? Jamie signed, her hands moving quickly, eager to keep the conversation flowing. The message was cryptic. Why was this lavish restaurant suddenly feeling like a trap? With the bistro's ambient chatter fading into the background, the heiress leaned closer. The flush of urgency on her face was unmistakable. She pointed to the note again, then to herself, the palms of her hands trembling, revealing more than just nerves. They revealed fear, a raw, primal fear, but the moment passed as quickly as it came, her resolve hardening. The heiress gestured toward the door, but something stopped her. She looked back at Jamie, her gaze sharper now, demanding honesty. "Are you safe?" She signed, the question hanging heavily between them. It was a voice without sound, yet it resonated loudly in Jamie's heart. "I'm fine." Jamie signed back, even though she felt a tremor in her stomach. But the words felt hollow. The stakes had shifted with a single glance. In that breathless exchange, it became clear, their fates were now intertwined. Suddenly, a loud crash broke through the tension, as a glass shattered across the floor. Panic surged. People around them were scrambling, startled by the commotion. Jamie's eyes widened as she tried to make sense of it all. Everyone was fixated on the entrance of the bistro, where a tall silhouette stood framed by the dim light, casting an ominous shadow across the marble floors. The figure was unmistakable, a man with an unsettling presence. The crowd gasped, whispering, "That's him, but he shouldn't be here." The hushed words snaked through the crowd like a creeping fog, every eye darting between the heiress and the towering man. In an instant, she knew he was the reason for the note. Panic took root in her chest. She reached for Jamie's hand, squeezing tightly, daring not to break eye contact with the threat that loomed just beyond the threshold. "Run," she signed fiercely, urgency blazing in her fingers, but Jamie hesitated, wanting to protect the heiress from whatever danger lurked. Together, Jamie signed back, resolute, even as tremors danced through her limbs. Their eyes locked, their breaths synchronized in the chaos enveloping them. Time felt suspended as the man took a step forward, a predatory glint in his eyes. The restaurant electrified with a mix of fear and excitement. What would happen next? Who was he? And why was he searching for her? A new wave of tension surged, thickening the air as Jamie grappled with the decision ahead. Would they confront the danger, or escape together into the uncertain night? Questions hung like specters, shadows of doubt laced with an ominous dread that something monumental was about to unfold. The clock was ticking, and they had precious little time. What choice would they make, courage or flight? As the bistro held its breath, those moments stretched into eternity, leaving everyone wondering. What darkness awaited just beyond the door? The air crackled with tension as the man advanced, his presence swallowing the room. Jamie's heart raced. She felt the cold grip of fear tighten around her chest. This was no casual encounter. This was a confrontation waiting to erupt. With a sudden shift, the lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the bistro. Murmurs spread like wildfire among the patrons, filling the space with a mix of intrigue and dread. Jamie's gaze flitted between the heiress and the man, who now stood mere feet away, a dark cloud looming over them both. "Do you know him?" Jamie signed urgently, hoping for any clue, anything to understand the danger that faced them. The heiress's face paled, a wash of comprehension swirling across her features, mixed with terror and desperation. "Yes," she signed back, her fingers shaking. He's my father's business partner. But he can't find me here. I thought I was safe." Jamie felt her stomach lurch. The bistro was supposed to be a sanctuary, a place to escape. Now, it felt like a trap closing in on them. As she exchanged worried glances with the heiress, the shadow of the man grew larger, more ominous, the predatory glint in his eyes never wavering. "Why is he here?" Jamie pressed, her fingers quick and anxious. He's looking for something. The heiress hesitated, her hands drifting into stillness. "Someone. Me. Because I know." The murmur of the crowd faded as the bistro patrons turned their attention to the unfolding drama. It was a cacophony of whispered speculations, fingers pointing discreetly in their direction. Jamie felt their eyes like daggers, piercing through every second of palpable tension. "Excuse me, ladies." The man's voice rang across the tension, smooth yet laced with a threat. He leaned in, his features now plainly visible, striking but sinister. "I couldn't help but notice you both deep in conversation. I believe you might have something of mine." His gaze settled on the piece of paper crumpled in the heiress's palm. An electric silence occupied the space for a heartbeat before Jamie made her move. "You have no reason to speak to her," she signed, turning her body slightly to shield the heiress. Courage surged within her, knowing that they needed an ally, and above all, they needed to stick together. Oh, he mocked with a raised eyebrow. Is that so? You do well to leave before things get messy. The heiress's breath hitched. What do you want? She signed fiercely. A harsh whisper escaped her lips, betraying a mixture of defiance and fear. There was a darkness beneath her resolve that echoed in the silent intensity of their connection. I want what's mine, he said, the malice underlying the words chilling the atmosphere. His eyes darted suspiciously, glancing around the bistro as if scanning for something or someone. Real panic surged in Jamie's system. We need to go now, she urged, with a swift look towards the entrance. But the thought of turning her back on the looming threat prickled at her instincts. The restaurant felt like a predator's lair, and they were its prey. The man sensed their hesitation. And where do you think you can go? He taunted, stepping closer, a predator smelling fear. In that moment, Jamie could feel the presence of every eye in the bistro bore into her. The situation was spiraling. Every second bled into the next, tension thickening like fog. Leave her out of this, Jamie exclaimed, the words finding their way into the chaos, fueled by desperation. Whatever you want, I can help you. Just let her go. But the man's smile was devoid of warmth, a mere facade overlaying something darker. Help? Oh, dear girl, it's too late for help. A strange shudder coursed through Jamie, and she felt time slip again, just when they needed it to stay still. The relentless human clock filled those brief moments with dread. Will courage truly prevail, or would they fall victim to the shadows that hunted them? Stealing her breath, Jamie took a step forward, ready to stand her ground. Would they face the monster together, or would fear tear them apart? What lay beyond the door was no longer just darkness, it was their only hope. The man's lip curled into a snarl, revealing the extent of his menace as he advanced another step. With every inch he closed, Jamie felt the walls of the bistro constrict, the air thickening between them like fog. The heiress's eyes darted to her left, scanning for an escape. But there was none, only the dense crowd, now a sea of onlookers, waiting for the storm to break. Do you think she is worth your life? He asked, his voice dripping with mockery. Such bravery for a girl who knows nothing of what's at stake. Shut up, Jamie shot back, her frustration boiling over. Anger mingled with fear as she shifted her stance, ready to shield the heiress from whatever was coming. She could almost feel the collective breath of the patrons held in suspense, a tangible pulse of tension that surrounded them. Enough games. The man leaned in closer. Jamie could smell the sharpness of his cologne mingling with the faint scent of sweat. It overwhelmed her senses, but she refused to back down. You need to decide where your loyalty lies. You might even be useful. His fingers flicked, dismissing the crowd. Or we can make this a lot messier than it needs to be. Tell me what you want, the heiress whispered, desperation knitted in her brow. I'll give it to you. A sadistic chuckle escaped him. Oh, you don't get to bargain here. You've already placed yourself in a noose. All of this, he gestured broadly, encompassing the onlookers, is just the beginning. Your father's empire isn't coming to save you. The heiress shuddered visibly, drawing in a shaky breath. Jamie noticed her tremors, a silent plea wrapped in her wide eyes. She wanted to scream, to surge forward and confront the beast head-on, but the instinct for survival gnawed at her to be more intelligent, to buy time. Let us walk, the man suggested, suddenly calm. His sinister grin faded as he turned to march toward the exit. And you too, sweetheart. He motioned at Jamie with a flick of his wrist. You're coming. Jamie stepped closer, feeling the weight of the moment. No, we're not going anywhere with you. Her voice trembled but remained steady. She could feel the thrum of the crowd. Their anticipation was a buzz that mirrored her own racing heart. The laughter melded with the silence, unsettling. You're stubborn. That's adorable. But, let us be clear, your defiance won't end well. The longer you play this game, the worse it will get. A chair scraped across the floor as someone from the crowd stood up, breaking the tension. What the hell is going on? A voice shouted, cutting through the oppressive air. The man turned sharply, eyes narrowing like a predator spotting an antelope. Stay out of this, or you'll regret it, he growled. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, the atmosphere buzzing as uncertainty thickened. Let them go. The new voice insisted, the firmness steady. It carried an air of authority that ignited a spark of hope in Jamie's chest. Let them go. The phrase echoed in Jamie's mind, unsettling her with questions of morality. But was it a clever ruse or a genuine offer? A glimmer of opportunity flickered behind the dread. If they could shift the focus, by time. Enough with the theatrics, the man hissed, irritation dripping from his sharp tone. I'll give you one chance. He pointed a finger swiftly toward Jamie and the heiress, a warning laced with venom. Walk with me, or I'll make sure you regret crossing me. The heiress clutched Jamie's arm, silently asking for guidance. Jamie's mind raced. A choice loomed before her: escape or confrontation. The anxiety coiled tight in her gut, but she knew they had to act. Just trust me, she signed hurriedly, squeezing the heiress's hand. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. The door loomed, a gaping maw that promised freedom or peril. The room held its breath, watching the unfolding play. But before they could make a move, a new figure rushed inside, the light catching the edge of something metallic glinting in the midst of chaos. What had they just walked into? The final seconds stretched like elastic, every heartbeat louder than before, as the narrative pivoted on the edge of a knife. Would hope prevail, or were they sealing their fate in darkness? They were about to find out. The figure burst into the bistro like a thunderstorm. The metallic flash caught Jamie's eye, and for just a heartbeat, the world slowed. It was a woman, wild-eyed and frantic, her hands thrust forward as if clutching at the air. Her face was flushed, and it took a moment for Jamie to register the wooden handle of a fork caught in the woman's grip. Put that down. The man barked, venom etched in every syllable. The menace he exuded seconds before flickered momentarily as his focus shifted from Jamie and the heiress to this new threat. But the woman was undeterred. She took a step forward, wielding the fork like a weapon. Her voice pierced the tension. I won't let you hurt them. The clarity of her intent cut through the haze of fear. The crowd's murmurs escalated into an uproar, caught somewhere between shock and anticipation, like spectators at a gladiatorial duel. Enough of this nonsense. The man snapped, his entire demeanor shifting to anger. That twisted smirk had vanished, replaced by a dangerous glint in his eyes, in the slightest nod of understanding. The heiress turned to Jamie, a mix of fear and gratitude bubbling within her. Jamie could see the hesitation that now danced in the man's fiery gaze. He didn't expect opposition. Get out of my way, he shouted again, raising a hand to assert control, but it was losing its power. The woman's grip on the fork was tight. She was no longer afraid, and that emboldened Jamie even further. Stay back, Jamie shouted, approaching the new woman, her heart racing. We can do this together, if we can distract him just long enough. Jamie, the heiress hissed, panic flaring in her voice. He'll hurt you. No, you don't get it, the woman with the fork said, parrying Jamie's gaze with unmistakable resolve. He's not the one in control. None of us are. The crowd bore witness to their desperate standoff, shifting uncomfortably, eyes wide, heartbeats echoing their own silent dread. A few patrons began edging back, sensing the rising tide of tension threatening to crash down. With a glance, Jamie connected with the heiress. Help me. We'll buy time. Just long enough for, but suddenly, the man lunged forward, shifting his attention back to the fork-wielding woman. The air became thick with energy. Enough games, he yelled, reckless fury radiating from him. I won't let this farce continue. Time seemed to freeze again, the room collectively inhaling, as Jamie and the heiress exchanged looks that spoke volumes. The heiress's grip tightened on Jamie's arm, fear, determination, a silent vow to fight. Drop it now, the man commanded, his tone sharper than ever. A nervous murmur swept through the crowd. People began to inch away from the escalating conflict. They all knew something had to give. Don't. You can't give in, Jamie yelled, feeling a rush of bravery. But deep inside, a gnawing doubt crept in. What if they were wrong? What would happen if they pushed too far? Let them go. The mystery woman's voice cracked through the thickening air, brimming with authority. You're a coward hiding behind threats. Show your true face. That was it. The man's mask slipped. In a terrifying flash, he lunged at the woman, aiming to wrestle the fork from her grasp. But Jamie moved instinctively, her desire to protect igniting like wildfire. She stepped in between them, every ounce of courage surging through her veins. Stop, she yelled, but her voice splintered, consumed by the chaos that erupted at their feet. A crashing sound reverberated through the bistro, followed by scattered cries. The crowd swirled in panic, their spirits fracturing as uncertainty blended with fear. Yet in this tornado of desperation, Jamie spotted a small child clinging to their parent's leg, wide-eyed and terrified. A new wave of emotion broke over her. "Help me." She raised her voice, aiming it toward the sea of faces. "Help us all. We can't let him win." But who would rally behind them? Would the floundering crowd rise to the challenge or remain frozen in place? As chaos reigned, the walls of the bistro felt like they were closing in. Choices were fading like echoes, and Jamie realized that if something didn't change soon, they were all going to be swept away in a storm of dread. But what twisted turn awaited in the next heartbeat? Would they quell the uprising or face unfathomable terror? In the blink of an eye, the chaos escalated. The man lunged, causing Jamie's heart to race. She leapt forward, adrenaline coursing through her. The air crackled with fear and desperation, everyone frozen in their own turmoil. A pair of hands grabbed Jamie's shoulders, and she turned to see the heiress standing behind her, eyes wide, full of conflicting emotions. "Please," the heiress gasped, pleading silently for Jamie to reconsider. But Jamie couldn't retreat, not when every instinct screamed to protect those in danger. "Let her go," the woman shouted, firm and unwavering as she aimed the fork right at the man. The fork was a flimsy weapon, but in that moment, it symbolized defiance. With a growl, the man surged forward, his hand slicing through the air, but the woman anticipated his every move. She sidestepped, her muscles taut, eyes sharp. Jamie felt exhilaration mixed with terror. Everyone was holding their breath as if they were watching a horror movie unfold, powerless to intervene. Then, with a swift motion, the woman jabbed the fork towards him, the metal gleaming under the bistro lights. All it did was provoke the man's fury. Before anyone could react, he slapped the fork away, sending it clattering against the floor. Silence enveloped the room, broken only by the clink of metal against tiles. "Fools," he bellowed, his voice booming like thunder. "You have no idea the forces you're meddling with." His eyes raged, and Jamie felt the world tilt dangerously on its axis. But Jamie did not falter. "We want to just stand by," she yelled, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. "Help us," the mysterious woman repeated, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. "Don't let fear control you. Stand up." A man from the back of the bistro stepped forward, just one, but he was followed by another, then another. It was like dominoes falling, a fragile hope igniting in the darkness. Faces began to emerge from the crowd, determination etching lines on their foreheads. The man, sensing his grip loosening, surged with renewed ferocity, his eyes darting like a trapped beast searching for escape. "You think you're brave? This will be your undoing." He raised his fists, ready to strike again, tension rippling through the group. Stay together," Jamie urged, feeling the collective energy shift. "Don't let him isolate you." Miraculously, the bistro patrons began to close in, shoulders brushing against one another, their fear turning to courage. Someone shouted, "Get him!" And Jamie felt a charge fill the air. Yet just as they moved as one, Jamie's heart froze. She caught a glimpse of something in the man's jacket as he turned to make another thread, a glint of metal, a weapon. Her breath caught in her throat as realization crashed over her. "Everyone, get back!" she yelled, panic slicing through her voice like a knife. The crowd hesitated. The tension grew more palpable, and Jamie's eyes locked onto the woman with the fork. "What do we do?" Jamie whispered urgently, her heart racing. The woman took a step closer, calm in the eye of the storm. "We face the truth. If we back down now, stay back." The man shouted again, eyes wild with desperation, raising his weapon just as another patron surged forward. In the chaotic interplay of defiance and fear, a sudden crash erupted from the kitchen door. A figure burst into the room, the bistro's head chef wielding a rolling pin, his face etched with fury. "Enough," he shouted, eyes ablaze. "No one attacks my family." The scene froze again, the unity of chaos intermingled with the sudden appearance of a new variable. In those brief seconds, confusion reigned. The man shifted his focus, turning towards the chef, and the crowd held its breath. But would this unexpected hero shift the tide in their favor, or would it only escalate the violence? The stakes felt higher than ever, and Jamie sensed that destiny was unfolding with every reckless breath. "Keep your hands off them," the chef yelled, stepping boldly forward, equal parts bravery and recklessness. As that standoff reached its peak, a new uncertainty crept in, questions hung thick in the air. Who would claim victory, and at what cost? What truth was hidden behind this fight, just waiting to break free? The tension in the bistro crackled like static electricity, charging the air with palpable fear. The head chef stood his ground, rolling pin raised, but the man with the weapon was not one to back down easily. "You think you can protect them?" The man sneered, shifting his attention back to Jamie and the others. His face twisted in anger, veins bulging at his temples, eyes burning like coals. The crowd shifted nervously behind Jamie, the initial spark of courage now teetering on the edge of doubt. She could feel the heartbeat of the room, a collective rhythm that quickened with each moment of stillness. "Enough games," the chef shouted, his voice a desperate roar. He took a step closer, unwavering, as if daring the man to make a move. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Jamie felt the heat of determination as she stepped forward alongside him. "We won't be silenced anymore," she declared, her heart thundering in her chest. The weight of her words hung in the air, mingling with the unmistakable scent of sweat and fear. The glint of metal was unmistakable. Just beyond the chef, the man raised a knife, its blade reflecting the harsh overhead lights like a harbinger of doom. With a flick of his wrist, he lunged. "Watch out," Jamie yelled, shoving the chef aside, her instincts taking over. The knife sliced through the air, barely missing the chef and embedding itself into the wall. Gasps echoed through the bistro as the patrons realized the gravity of the situation. Panic set in like wildfire. Some were scrambling for the door, while others stood frozen in horror, unable to process the escalating violence. "Keep it together," Jamie shouted, trying to rally the crowd once more. "We need to stand," but her voice was drowned out by the man's escalating fury. "You think you're brave?" He laughed darkly, eyes wild. "There's no bravery in numbers when you're all as weak as you are." In a split-second decision, Jamie felt the woman with the fork move beside her again. "We need to act now," the woman urged, gripping Jamie's arm tightly. Just then, from the corner of her eye, Jamie noticed another figure emerge from the shadowy depths of the bistro, the old bartender, a frail man with white hair. He raised his hands, shaking slightly, but his voice rang true, pleading for calm. "Wait. This isn't the way. There are things you don't understand." "What could you possibly know?" The man spat, his attention split once more, and that was all the opening they needed. With almost choreographed precision, the chef and the mysterious woman lunged forward simultaneously. The woman brandished her fork like a sword, while the chef swung his rolling pin high. It was a wild and desperate attempt, a dance of defiance that might just turn the tide, but the man was quicker. He ducked, his eyes narrowing as he changed course, fully focused on Jamie. Just as he sprang toward her, something inside Jamie flared an insatiable need to protect them all. She would not let fear dictate her actions any longer. "I will not let you hurt anyone," she yelled, raising her arms as though to absorb his rage. And then, in that electrified moment, everything shifted. A loud crash erupted behind them. The kitchen door swung open again. This time, it wasn't just chaos spilling out, but a loud voice that held authority. "Step back now. This ends here." The crowd turned as a uniformed officer entered, flanked by two other policemen, their expressions set and serious. The bistro trembled with confusion, and as the officer locked eyes with the man, Jamie's heart soared with uncertainty. Would this intervention restore order or plunge them deeper into danger? As the armed standoff continued, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the edge of a monumental revelation. What was really at stake here? And as the knife quivered in the wall, she could sense that this was just the beginning. What secrets might this man hold, and what truths were about to unravel in the midst of this chaos? The officer stepped forward, his badge glinting in the harsh light, a beacon of authority amidst the swirling chaos. "Put down the knife. Now," he commanded, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife of its own. The patrons huddled closer together, glancing nervously at one another, their breaths mingling with fear, but the man holding the knife was not so easily deterred. His face contorted in rage, he waved the blade, his knuckles white with tension. You think you can just show up and play the hero? This is between me and them. His eyes darted wildly, searching for escape or weakness. Jamie felt her heart race again, the pounding echoing in her ears. She had to do something, but what? The frayed edges of panic tangled with her thoughts. The chef and the woman with the fork stood like statues beside her, waiting for the right moment to act, but she sensed the clock ticking down rapidly. Listen to me, the bartender interjected, trembling but trying to keep his voice steady. There's more to this than you know. You can't. His words faltered under the weight of the chaos as the man cut him off, dismissing him like yesterday's news. Shut up, old man. No one wants to hear your pathetic excuses. The man's words dripped with contempt, and Jamie could see the fear in the old bartender's eyes as he shrank back, caught between his sense of duty and his instinct for self-preservation. The officer moved slowly, carefully, assessing the situation. Just breathe, all right? Let us talk this through. He took another step, his voice calm yet firm, trying to keep the man's attention on him. What you're doing isn't going to solve anything. But Jamie could see the man's grip tightening, a deadly resolve brewing within him as he sidestepped the officer, narrowing his focus back on her and the helpless crowd. You don't understand anything. They pushed me to this, he roared, his voice cracking with emotion. Jamie swallowed heavily, the lump in her throat making speaking almost impossible. She stepped further forward, shaking off the overwhelming panic. You don't have to do this, she implored, trying to reach through the fog of his anger. We can help you. Just talk to us. For a heartbeat, the chaotic world around her seemed to still. The crowd held its breath. Jamie could see the flicker of uncertainty in the man's eyes, conflicting with the rage that had brewed so deeply within him. But before she could grasp the moment, the old bartender jumped back in, his voice rising in urgency. You don't realize the truth about them. He pointed shakily at Jamie and the chef, his words dripping with urgency. They're connected to everything. It's bigger than you know. If you don't stop this now, they could get hurt. Utter confusion swept through the crowd again. Jamie's heart raced, desperation clawing at her throat. What was he talking about? What truths lay hidden beneath this tragic scene? Just then, the woman with the fork stepped closer, resolve shining in her eyes. Tell him. He needs to know, she urged the bartender. The ambience vibrated with anticipation. Seeing the man's expression shift, Jamie seized the moment, channeling every ounce of determination she had. We are here for you. Help us help you. But before she could take another step, the man lunged forward, and in that instant, it felt like time stood still. As he came closer, Jamie's thoughts spiraled. Was it all going to end here? The bartender cried out, but the words came too late. In that split second, something happened that sent shockwaves across the bistro, leaving everyone breathless. The man hesitated, just as the officer raised his weapon. The glint off the knife fell into Jamie's eyes like a flash of lightning. And in that electrifying moment, she felt the truth hanging in the air, ready to spill out, ready to change everything. What was it he and T revealed? What connection could turn this situation upside down? Just then, the old bartender's voice broke through the chaos again, trembling but urgent. You need to listen, but what words could possibly come next? And what would it mean for them all? The man's movements froze. Chaos hung heavy in the air as uncertainty flickered in his eyes. The officer's steady grip on his weapon kept the scene tense, a fragile balance teetering on the edge of violence. Jamie, her heart pounding wildly, felt every eye in the room trained on them, holding their breath in anticipation. What do you mean, they're connected? The man's voice wavered now, a mixture of confusion and rage boiling beneath the surface. He tightened his grip on the knife, glancing between the bartender and Jamie, searching for answers. Just listen, the bartender pleaded. You don't understand why they're here. You're acting out of anger without knowing the full story. The woman with the fork stepped beside Jamie, eyes bright with desperation. We can help you uncover the truth. There's a reason for this, for everything. You think I'll just believe you? He shouted back, his eyes narrowing, filled with spite. Jamie could feel the collective inhale of the crowd. They all shared that same question, could he? Then, as if the weight of his own impulses broke through, the man lowered the knife slightly, just for a heartbeat. What truth? What are you hiding? His voice was softer now, like a crack splitting open in ice. The bartender took a shaky step closer. You've been lied to. The people you think wronged you, they've created a network of deceit. They'll stop at nothing to cover it up. Jamie watched as the anger in the man's eyes flickered, revealing a glimmer of doubt. I want to let them win, not again. He shouted, edging back towards desperation. Then let us help you fight. Let us help you reveal it. Jamie's voice rang out, filled with the raw, desperate energy of a woman fighting against fate. This can't end like this. You have to trust us. The knife was still there, heavy with weight, but the tension began to pull the man back from the brink. He hesitated again. Jamie could see it, the internal war raging inside him. Then the silence was shattered by a distant siren, a harsh reminder that time was running out. The officer took a step forward, voice steady. You need to make a choice. Right now? Whatever you think they've done, this isn't the way. The man's chest heaved as he grasped the knife tighter. For a split second, Jamie saw something ancient in his eyes, an echo of pain and rage that cried out for resolution. I don't know who to trust. He spat half to himself, half to the room, eyes darting wildly around. Trust me, the bartender implored, raising his voice, desperation lacing every syllable. Look at the bigger picture. You won't get the answers like this. They'll only tear you apart. Just look at what's standing before you right now. Suddenly, with a surge of adrenaline, Jamie stepped forward despite the blade's oppressive presence. Look at me. I'm real. We're real. And we're here. In that moment, the man's shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world settled heavily on him. The knife lowered slightly. His eyes flickered with something Jamie couldn't quite catch: hope, fear, confusion. But then it happened. The woman with the fork, spurred on by the intensity of the moment, reached out delicately with hands in motion, forming shapes that drew the man's gaze away from the weapon. She signed swiftly, and though Jamie couldn't grasp every gesture, the expression was clear. There's a way out of this. Let us help. The man's focus switched, confusion flooding back in. What? What are you saying? The officer sneaked a glance at Jamie, his eyes widening, then aimed to arrest his grip. What is she telling him? The bartender stepped closer to unveil the truth. Listen, all of this can change if you just let them in. Tension coiled tighter than before, anxiety seeping through the crowd like a cloud of fear. The man stood on the precipice, eyes darting between Jamie, the bartender, the knife, and the woman, framing a revelation through her silent plea. Just then, a loud crash echoed through the bistro, an outside window shattering into a torrent of glass, splintering the once captive crowd's thoughts and scattering them in horror. The moment of choice hung like a sword ready to fall. The man visibly stiffened as chaos erupted around them. What had he done? What revelation would come crashing down next? And then, Jamie's phone buzzed violently in her pocket, a stark break in the tension. She fished it out, eyes widening. What could possibly be waiting for her on the screen? The chaos engulfed the restaurant. Shattered glass glimmered under the fluorescent lights, reflecting the panic that radiated around them. Jamie's heart raced, her instincts screaming at her to act. She lifted her phone, glancing at the message blaring across the screen. Emergency alert. Police issued lockdown for safety. Seek shelter. A shiver danced down her spine. Not now, she thought, pushing past the urgency in her chest. She needed to focus. Listen, Jamie shouted, voice cutting through the din. This isn't the way. We can help you. You don't have to face this alone. The man froze, confusion dancing in his eyes as he lowered the knife. How can I trust you? His voice wavered, laced with pain. Because we're here. Look around, we're fighting for each other. She gestured to the people in the room, the crowd that now stood united. A faint flicker of something like hope crept into his expression. The bartender took a step closer, his voice steady. This violence won't get you the answers you seek. They've manipulated you. The man glared, fists trembling as indecision coursed through him. Stop. The officer's voice sliced through the tension. You need to choose. What do you want? Revenge? Or the truth? In that raw moment, the man's gaze shifted again, wavering between the knife and the faces of those around him. Jamie's breath hitched. She desperately hoped to change his decision. Please, just drop the knife. Jamie pleaded, horror tightening her chest. You can find out what they did to you, but it won't come from this. Suddenly, the woman with the fork took another step forward, her sincerity shining bright amid the gloom. She signed again, her gestures fluid and intentional. We'll stand by you. You don't have to fight this fight alone. The man's eyes flickered again, and Jamie saw the wall of rage beginning to crumble. I don't know, let us help you. The chef shouted, determination flooding his tone, rallying everyone. We can't let fear dictate our lives anymore. The moment hung like a delicate thread, the very air buzzing with possibility. Jamie sensed strength and resolve within every heart beating around her. She recalled the faces of those who had stood up, drawn not by fear, but by unity. Was that enough to break his chains? I wanted answers. I wanted power. He spat, anger flaring again. But Jamie stepped closer, refusing to let fear win. You wanted justice, she exclaimed. You wanted the truth. And we'll fight for you. We'll help you uncover it. But you need to trust us. Please. The knife slipped from his grasp in slow motion, falling to the floor in a metallic thud that echoed like freedom. Jamie felt breath through the room, a great swell of emotion cresting like a wave breaking against a shore. The officer stepped forward cautiously, offering an outstretched hand. You made a hard choice. The man lowered his head, looking ashamed. I didn't mean to, he mumbled, frustration erupting into despair. I'm just lost. I don't know what to do anymore. Looking into his eyes, Jamie saw something familiar, a struggling spirit yearning for redemption. She reached out, her hands steady. Start over with us. The distance closed as the man's tense form relaxed. The crowd cautiously stepped forward, arms extended, beckoning warmth, acceptance, and understanding. You're not alone anymore, the bartender said, his voice brimming with compassion. Together, we'll find the truth. A beat passed, and just as the weight of their shared experience settled into the fabric of the moment, sirens howled from afar, a reminder of the chaos still lurking outside. Shadows loomed, yet here, within these walls, there was light, hope rekindling in places long thought extinguished. The man stepped into the fold of arms, a fragile truce blossoming amid uncertainty. Tears brimming at the edges of his eyes, he whispered softly, I am ready. The atmosphere shifted, fear dissipated like morning mist, replaced by the strength of community standing tall against adversity. They shared nods, glances filled with determination. They were ready. Jamie's heart swelled. Now, let us do this together. As echoes of shattered glass faded, a flood of voices began to rise, stories untold, confessions waiting to be heard. This was the moment, the beginning of their unbroken journey towards the truth. What had started as silence and shadows transformed into a symphony of voices as they locked arms and opened the door to a new day. Now it's your turn to take action. Don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about this ending. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support and remind everyone that together, we stand stronger.